What's going on, Titans fans? Welcome back into a special edition of the Morning Glory Show. Thanks for joining us live here on a Saturday morning instead of Thursday. But I'm joined by the man, the myth, the legend himself, as always, B Will at B Will TFTV and TFTV Sports. How you doing today, B Will?
I'm good, man. I'm good, man. Different day, but same old thing.
Same old thing over in Nashville. But if you're joining us for the first time, do us a couple favors. We're approaching that 1,000 subscriber mark. And if you want to help out the challenge, go over to YouTube, type in Glory Day Sports, go over there and hit that subscribe button. Enter you in that chance to win a signed Tajay Spears jersey. As soon as we hit that 1,000 subscriber mark, we'll be giving that away. And then me and B-Will, we're Twinkies today because we're rocking some merch, which is the Morning Glory Show t-shirt over there. Go get you one for basically $18. I mean, you don't see many t-shirts less than 20 of these days. They get you a mug, get you a hat. Those are bomb. But
Exceptional deal for an exceptional t-shirt.
Yes. But we're going to hop into it today. Nashville has been in for a crazy week, we can say. So B-Will, just take us through what it's been like to be a Titans fan this last week. We know, obviously, they secure the 101 pick since our last show. Then they fire Ram Carthon, which we'll get into. And then Mike Keith resigns the next day. It's just been a whirlwind for us guys over here. So take us through your thoughts and emotions this week.
Yeah, so the emotions were running high after we got the 101. And, you're looking at what could be next season. You know what I mean? You're starting to put some of the pieces in place of, well, what would this person might think? What does this person want? And Carthon's part of that equation, in my opinion, despite the reports that came out. Some came out nationally before the local media got onto it, obviously. But, then he's not, there's no confirmation after the end of the game. But the rumors are extremely loud. Then there's not a confirmation within 24 hours. And you're like, oh, this is sort of weird. Callahan has his press conference. Carthon's no longer nowhere to be found. Even though the press conference we saw don't mean jack shit. You saw it happen to Antonio Pierce. But, and then 48 hours go by and it's still nothing. And that's when I get worried. Because I'm like, this lady is going to do something pretty stupid. And she did. And she fired Ram Carthon, which is, just completely stupid in my opinion. It's especially stupid if you don't fire everybody else with him. You don't hire the guy that he hired to really essentially be in his role and then hire a sham GM in the process. You know what I mean? So, it's really been, after the news was announced, it was really disappointing. That's really where I'm at with this franchise in more ways than one. It really, and ownership got a little bit of a pass from me, especially because of the stadium. And she's putting up a little bit of money, considering, compared to the rest of the league, I'd say, what the standard's been. And she got a little bit of a pass from me. And then also, over the last few years, it's gotten a little better. But that pass is done. She's got to go, in my opinion. She's terrible. She has to stay away from football. The hardest decision, she's a trust fund baby. The hardest decision she's ever had to make in her life, what she wants for breakfast. She can't make any decisions. And you see what happens when she makes decisions. It's pandemonium. And it makes no sense. It's just silly. So the firing of Carthon is idiotic, in my opinion. He showed that there's a process in place. And we saw the fruits of that process with some of the late round picks that we got in the draft. And Brownlee Jr., he's the pinnacle of that. You know what I mean? And then his ability to foster relationships inside and outside the building. People scoff at that and say, oh, well, he's just going around laughing and tapping people on the ass. And there's a lot more to that. If you ever been in a workplace or you ain't just a Twitter keyboard warrior, there's a lot more to that. And there's ramifications that come from that. You know what I mean? That helps you get guys 5-10 years down the line that might not necessarily want to come to a football deprived, non-fan crazy city like Nashville is for football. You need 100%. Some of that little extra. And he was going to be a big reason of why we would have got Shador Sanders, in my opinion. It's going to be relationships. It's damn sure ain't going to be this city that sells them. So it's really just a lot of disappointment for me.
I think the biggest thing is you can have great process and bad results, which I think is evident with Rand Carthon. But you can also have bad process and great results, which I think is what Amy got away with early as she takes over. She fires a playoff head coach, hires Mike Vrabel, and it turned out really well. I would still call that pretty bad process. She lucked into Mike Vrabel. It charts out really well, and it gets really bad real quick. And that's why we've had her fire a GM, a head coach, and a GM in back-to-back seasons now. And this whole talk of last year was it's time to hunt together. Let's have the cohesion amongst the front office and the coaching staff. And they turn around and go, nope, it's okay. We don't think that's going to work. And then you trot out a Chad Brinker, and basically he just says the same thing. You're just giving us the same shit a different year and rolling it out like it was Rand Carthon's fault. If you're a Titans fan, and everybody has their differing opinions, but Rand Carthon did everything that a Titans fan was wanting him to do. L'Jarius Sneed comes up for trade talks. Titans fans were all over it, us included. Go get him. A third-round pick, that's nothing. They go and grab him. I think that's a great process. He gets injured, so you get a bad result. You look at Calvin Ridley. He's out there, number one receiver on the marketplace. And we don't think we have a shot of getting him, but Rand Carthon has that rapport with players that he brings in and talks to, and they want to be a part of his team. So he goes and gets a Calvin Ridley and comes in as our number one wide receiver on the team this season. And I think he did that so many times. Ernest Jones, you bring him in for a late round pick and then swap it. I mean, he did a great job these 2 years he was here. It is unfortunate, and I do agree with the ownership. I don't like what Amy's doing to this team. It's very concerning for the future because she's just got an itchy trigger finger. You don't know what she's going to do next. And if you can't have this cohesion from on a year-to-year basis, it's not going to get any better. Because I know next season, if we start, say, 2-6, she's going to get an itchy finger for Callahan. And it's just going to be the same shit over and over, just repeating it. It doesn't make any sense to me.
She's made an undesirable job in an undesirable city and an undesirable franchise untouchable. You don't want to.
It's going to be really interesting with the GM.
This franchise is a ticking time bomb. It really is, and she's really turned it into that. You know, it could have gotten to. It was on a trajectory. Throw the wins, losses out the window. I attribute that to quarterback play. It was 100%. On a trajectory going into the offseason, like, hey, this team might be, might make some noise. They've got a new stadium coming, exciting city. Nashville's a great city. She shot all that. It's shot.
It's going to be very interesting what this GM search transpires into be. Because, like you said, it is not a desirable position. I know we've got the 101 pick. We're like 10th in cap hit right now. So there's money to spend. You have a second-year coach that you're now married to for the foreseeable future, which could put your job opportunity at cause as well. So this is Chad Brinker's job. We know that. He is the shadow GM. The NFL has ruled, in fact, that the GM that we bring in is going to be the head executive, but we know Chad's higher up. That's just what Amy's told us. So it's going to be interesting to see what transpires from that. And I think he's just going to bring in his guy. And they've interviewed a slew of them as of yesterday, and it's going to continue throughout this week. They bring in Kansas City Chiefs assistant GM Mike Borgonzi. They bring in Cleveland Browns assistant general manager and vice president of football operations Catherine Hickman, Buffalo Bills director of personnel Terrence Gray. We get into Miami Dolphins apparent favorite, if you're listening to Diana Rossini, which is Reggie McKenzie. And then we got assistant Colts GM Ed Dodds, John Spidek from Tampa Bay, Matt Berry from Seattle. And then the one that really stuck out to me was Thomas Dimitroff, former GM for the Atlanta Falcons. I think that might be a good fit that they like. But I think Brinker's ultimately going to bring a guy that he has a lot of rapport with, that he's actually worked with in the past. And I know the one that trickled in as of yesterday was GM assistant Ian Cunningham from Chicago. And then where is the Packers? Packers VP of player personnel, John Eric Sullivan, who has been floated around in the league for a few years now. Is there anybody that really just stands out that you would see as an improvement over Rand at this point? Because personally, I do not.
You don't have improvements over in this GM position. It's a really static position that there's not much movement at league wide anyway. I mean, you got the Colts that kept Ballard for Christ's sake because there's not anybody better. You know, these guys, it's a very specific job that goes on here. And these guys, it's a relationships business. These guys have relationships with the other GMs. These guys have relationships with the national scouts across the league. These guys have relationships with the guys at the collegiate level, coaches and such. Coaching. What am I saying? General managers at the collegiate level. It's a really specific job, and it's not really one that I could say I want that guy. There's just not. I want continuity. That's what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted some continuity, and to where we reload, we improve at the coaching level a little bit, and let's figure this thing out. But that's shot. So it's sad because this is a sham. This is gonna be a sham job, a sham hire. It's this guy ain't gonna have no power.
And I think it's a very interesting spot. And I know they ruled in favor of whatever it was, but and playing a little bit of devil's advocate, Rand Carthon, he was basically a glorified scout. He had final say, we believe, reported, but he was getting out there. He was scouting the players. He didn't have a lot to do with the rest of the front office management, from the contract situations and all of those and the free agency. It was reported that Chad Brinker had his hand in a lot of those trades and free agent signings. That was reported by Paul Kaharski. So you can't go out and say this is Rand Carthon's fault for what has transpired amongst free agency and the spending spree that we went on. And at the same time, it was Chad Brinker. You reported it. So you can't have one. You can't have your cake and eat it too. So It was either everybody or no one.
Right.
And ultimately, I think the front office did a good job. I was higher on the front office than I was the coaching staff. And I know even before the game, they came out and said Callahan's coming back for a second season, probably. And that has come to fruition. But I was much
he
lower
called the
on
game
Callahan.
like it too.
100%. It's how much can you put stock into that at this point in time? Are you coaching to win, or are you coaching to get the number one pick? And so I don't write too much into that. But I got to see more from Callahan this next season, 110%, or I will be on boat with getting rid of him. Yeah. And that's unfortunate because she's put us into this situation to where you could go GM, head coach in 4 years. Hey. And that's super unfortunate.
We're at the point now where it's a firing spree. We just come to expect it. It's just somebody don't perform, get them out of there. And that's not necessarily the right answer a lot of times. But I don't. Why is Ackerman not fired yet? Yeah, I mean, these are the things I'm asking. These are questions I'm asking. That's the guy who should have been fired. He should have been the first guy out the door, not Carter.
Well, Ackerman has been fired. But
has he?
Ackerman was Vrabel. You're thinking of name is escaping me now.
Yeah, Colt McCoy or something like Colt Anderson, is it not?
Colt Anderson, yes.
He's synonymous with Ackerman in my opinion. So,
and I think that's only a matter of time. That doesn't make sense to retain him this next season, and we know there's going to be turnover amongst the staff.
I'm glad
as we bring in a new GM. No, Ackerman just as bad as freaking.
I just got PTSD, but it's the matter of and I guess the order of operations. The GM, he's the head guy. You want to get but come on now. I didn't like the reporting that came out after the firing either. What did you think about that?
No, I think it was hogwash. It was just blasphemy to say that, well, Rand Carthon, he fell asleep on a team bus going home after a game when other people were watching tape for the Monday review. So you don't know what transpired after that. He could have got home and watched the tape. He could have woke up that next morning and watched the tape before the meeting and have it fresh on his mind. I don't give a shit about that.
Yeah.
It's just trying to cover their own coattails. and say, hey, this is this guy's fault, and we're just trying to find a scapegoat. And that's fine. I mean, I don't write anything into that at all. I think Carthon has proven his relationship with players, and that's what we knew we were getting when we hired him. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what they do with this position. I think what they're going to do is bring in a guy that has many years of experience in the NFL, because I think that's where our front office is at this point in time. Was we're archaic and we've been operating the Stone Ages for such a long time, since the John Robinson era. And I think Carthon was working on fixing that, and I think Brinker's doing a good job of that as well. But they're going to bring in a guy from an organization that's been doing it right for many years, so they can expedite that adventure and get them up to speed and operate like a front office does for the Green Bay Packers, like the Kansas City Chiefs, like the Miami Dolphins. And I think that could take us to the next level. But at the same time, I don't know if they'll be here long enough to see that transpire.
I can't trust anything at this point with Amy Adams Strunk. I can't even trust if the stadium gets done. She might fire the guy, the project manager. She might fire the contractor. Who knows? Who knows with Amy Adams Strunk? She's a hothead. And it's just at this point, dude, who knows what she's going to do?
It's going to be very interesting, and we'll be talking about this for months months.
Damn crane might be suspended halfway in the air. She'll fire the crane operator. You don't ever know with her, man.
I think they're going to make a GM decision here sooner rather than not, just because we got Senior Bowl coming up at the end of this month. We got pro days. We got combine, and the draft is only, 3.5 months away? It's coming real quick. So they're going to bring in a guy here soon so he can – I don't think they're going to turn over a lot of that front office staff as far as scouts go, because those boards are almost already set.
They're done.
I figured to bring in a guy. Yeah. They're going to have some fluctuation based off these all-star games and pro days stuff, athletic testing, but they're ultimately, the tape's been watched.
The pick is set. These guys know who we're picking number one. They know right now. I guarantee it. You know what I'm saying? That GM, and even if it's different, how much of a voice is this new GM gonna have? This sham GM. He ain't gonna have a voice. This pick is set. We know who we're picking. It's just a matter of getting there at this point. It's got to be a quarterback.
Ed Henry puts it well. What is our confidence meter on them screwing up this pick with the 101? I think there's two quarterbacks up there at the top, and they're going to get Callahan's guy. I think that's who it's going to be.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I think that's Shador, and I think Shador has, love him or hate him, I think he has a very high floor, maybe not the highest ceiling, but that goes across the board with a guy like Joe Burrow. He's very similar in that play style, and that's what Callahan wants.
Here's the thing, and my question for the people that say he doesn't have too high of a ceiling, is that because of the lack of quote-unquote elite traits? You know, is that what people say? What about the processing skills? I would say he's an elite processor.
I think he does hold on to the ball a little bit longer than he needs to, and that's what accredits him to. I think he's just over 3 seconds on time to throw, but that doesn't mean the end of the world. There's guys that are in that realm like Patrick Mahomes and stuff like that. So you can definitely have those traits and still be a successful quarterback and operate outside of the scheme of the offense, which is something the Titans haven't had a guy that could operate inside. I think Will Levis off structure can do some good things. At the same time, he could throw it to Jalen Johnson as he's streaking down the sideline for a pick six. So Shador's not going to do that. He's not going to have those turnover-worthy plays that we're worried about. And I think that's why Cam Ward gives so many Titans fans PTSD as well. I think Cam Ward does have those physical skill sets that you're looking for at the next level. And I think he's a great athlete. And he's started from the bottom. Now he's here because he's gone from the D2s to Washington State to Miami and worked his way up. So I think both of these guys could be decent quarterbacks, and quarterback scouting in general is just a crapshoot. Both of these guys could be studs. Both of these guys could be busts, and I'd give it about a 50-50 shot. But we're going back to these good processes, bad results, bad processes, good results. We're not going to be having the 101 next year unless something just catastrophic happens. And if that's the case, you're looking at a new staff. across the board. There's no way they're bringing them both back. So
do you read too much
I think
into,
you have to go to quarterback.
do you read any into Deion's tweet immediately after the firing?
I mean, a little bit. I think he was shocked, as we were all shocked. And this goes back to Rand Carthon is a very relationship-driven general manager. And I think he had a good relationship with Deion. And that's just another knock into our – yeah. We've had these conversations with Deion. I 100% agree.
Yeah. There's video of Titan scouts literally at practices talking to Deion months ago. If people haven't seen, there's videos out there of that happening. Now I'm not talking like an undercover, the undercover scout with a black hat and shades on. This guy's full-fledged Titans gear. Scout. Talking to Deion Sanders at a random Tuesday in week 8 or something like that. It's a random practice.
So, if that's the route they're going, which I do agree, that's probably the route they're going as of today on January 11th. We'll see how that changes. But one of these GMs, it's going to be interesting to see if they have a relationship with Deion as well, because we know that primetime show could go different routes, and he might say, hey, I don't want my son to go to this organization based off what Amy has done. I don't think he's going to have continuity there. And I don't care if Thomas Dimitroff is there. Reggie McKenzie is the GM, because I don't care for them. So it'll be very interesting to see how that plays out, for sure. I 100% agree. So the Titans also lost the voice of the Titans. Friend of the show, Mike Keith, has resigned and moved over to Vol Nation, which is unfortunate for the Titan fans that are not Vol fans. But we wish Mike nothing but the best. I've gotten to talk to him. Yeah, 100%. It's his alma mater, is it? Yeah, I believe.
His alma mater.
Kudos to him. Love Mike. I put out that stupid tweet every single week during the season that Will Levis only needs so many 1,000 passing yards until he eclipsed Tom Brady all-time passing record. Mike Keith loves the shit out of that tweet. I don't know why.
He waits for it.
He waits for it. He responds to it every single week, and I stopped doing it, and he messaged me asking me why I stopped doing it. So I started again. I was like, whatever.
But the boss man said you need to keep doing it.
I was like, hey, you're the dude, so let's do it. So I think Mike is amazing. We'll go to some of these comments because some of them have been going off. Amar, he's been here since the beginning.
Shout out to Amar.
Definitely not getting any of the Deion boys we need to draft Cam Ward. And again, I'm fine with Cam Ward. I'm fine with either of these two guys. And if this was a different scheme, I might even have Cam Ward over Shedeur. But for what the Titans want to do and operate in system and have this accurate quarterback, I think Shedeur just fits better. And it'll be very interesting to see how that plays out. Somebody had a comment about trading back and acquiring a free agent quarterback. I think it was MB. I'm not convinced they are not getting a vet free agency and then trading the pick or going elsewhere with that pick. So let's talk briefly on this, just because I have seen this floated out a few different times amongst fans. Is there a certain free agent quarterback that you would at least entertain with them grabbing that player and then drafting, let's say, an Abdul Carter, a Travis Hunter with a 101, or potentially trading back and still acquiring one of those players? Anybody stick out to you?
Not free agent. Stafford would. That's somebody that I would look at possibly at a trade market. Stafford I like Cousins, man. I don't give a shit. He's gonna be a gunslinger. I like that. I think it's something that we need. He could throw for 300 yards in his sleep. Now you might get 300 picks, but he's gonna throw for 300. He's gonna sling the ball around the park. But even that is that's the last worst case scenario, in my opinion. You got these people that want this trade back and don't are saying that we don't need to get a quarterback. We need to get the best player available. Let me tell you this. You got a coach. This seat is scorching hot. He's got the tyrant, Amy Adams Strunk, breathing down his neck. He's going to want his freaking guy in there to run his offense. That's simple. That's plain as day. That's going to happen. And his guy is not a veteran quarterback like that. It could be, unless if it's a guy like Stafford, yeah, it is. But those guys are few and far between. Who's LA to let go of Stafford? You just saw what he did, what he's doing.
Yeah.
They're not gonna let that guy go. You just don't let guys like that go for good reason. So the trade back crowd, yeah, it sounds good in theory. And it sounds good. I'm gonna change something too. People say sounds good in theory. It sounds good in Twitter. It sounds good in Twitter. It don't sound good in practice. It's just not gonna happen. Just because that quarterback is gonna be tied to the coach, and the coach wants his guy in that building. That's his guy. Just like a GM is gonna want their coach in the building. It's simple. I don't see why it's so hard for people to understand. It's a loyalty-based business. And if you're going to go down with the ship, you better be holding on to your flag and not somebody else's flag.
If they are to trade down, I think I see it as one option, and that's with the Browns at the second pick. Because I'm coming out this offseason, guns blazing. I'm going to every single Cam Ward appearance that he's out. And I'm just talking how much we love Cam Ward. I'm talking about how much we love Shador. And then I'm also going to be entertaining trades with the Giants, the Raiders, all of these guys, and be like, hey, there's something on the table. And I'm going to go to Cleveland and be like, hey, this is going to happen. Offer us a third-round pick. Give us an additional fourth, and we'll swap picks. And if you do that, you're still securing one of those two guys, and you can recoup some of those additional draft capital. And then from there, you let them make that decision. It's less pressure on that GM if Shador goes out and gets drafted by the Browns or Cam Ward, and one of them plays awful. You still have that additional pick to recoup a little bit. So that's what I'm doing. But I'm also at the same time bringing in one of these free agents. The guy that really sticks out to me is Derek Carr. That'd be my number one pick going in next season, just because I think he fits the scheme really well. At the same time, I think he probably re-signs with New Orleans. They just don't have another option there. I mean, I think Spencer Rattler
Can they even afford to let him walk?
I don't think so. I think it's like a 50-ish million.
Yeah, I think they've got to pretty much keep him.
Yeah,
I think it's one of those ones.
So that would be my number one. I don't think it's going to happen, though. If I'm just looking at talent level that I think we can get on the cheap, that's when you move into a Justin Fields type, who I think is a terrible fit for the scheme, but I think he's the best
good player
upside out of those guys. And I was very high on Fields coming out, and I think he played well for the Steelers this year. So that'd be my number two. I think he's just an uptick better than Mason Rudolph. I do agree Kirk Cousins could be a good fit as well. I just question how much he has left. But let those guys come in and let them mature these young quarterbacks and give them some time to develop. And then we're halfway through the season, they get the Drake May effect. Hey, it's your time in week 6, week 7, and then we're off to the races. Let's see what you got. Even if you perform badly, you're still going to have that grace coming into next season to have some more developmental time. And it's almost that Will Levis effect we saw this last year. When he came in, he played great from times, and then he played awful at times. And then we talked him up all offseason how he could be the first Titans quarterback to have 4,000 plus passing yards in a season. That did not come to fruition. So you at least have that grace going into the next season. So there's a bunch of different options for this, and we're gonna talk about it ad nauseum, I'm sure. As far as just trading back and just having a free agent, I just can't get on board on it. I'm not
really sold on Abdul Carter either, to be honest. I mean, the guy's a freak, right? I'm just not. He doesn't fill me with confidence either. I mean, how many years has he played as on edge? Was this his first season?
Yes, he was a former off-ball linebacker, which he still plays a little bit there, and then he kind of moved down into the edge full-time role this past season. So I think that's the biggest attribute that you can talk about. He's still raw at the position, and you still see those physical talents there. So
I'm not, dude. I don't want raw. Pause. I don't want that at 1-on-1. I don't want it. Don't look good. Don't want it. I don't know. Let somebody else chew on that bone. I don't want it. That's me.
I think the biggest pushback I would have on that with Abdul. I think he is a great talent. I think he'll be very good in the league. But this edge group class is so deep, even into round 4, round 5. I think you can get quality pass rushing reps from that position. You can look at a James Pierce maybe early in round 2. You can look at the Princely from Ole Miss. You got Mike Green, who is setting the draft world on fire right now. So I think there's a lot of talent you can grab later in the draft and still fix that position potentially. What does give me a cause for concern is the right tackle position. The tackle class is bad this year. I'm sorry to break it to Titans fans, but there's so many, we'll say Peter Skoronskis out there, the guys that just don't have the required length that are going to get kicked inside in a Callahan system. So there's nobody in the first round I would grab for the right tackle position if they were to trade down. The second round is very similar to me. I think the guy that really just might stand out is Jonah Savanea out of Arizona. But I still question, yes. So we'll get that one down come April, but I don't know if he has the requisite arm length as well. So these measurements we get out of these all-star games are going to be very interesting. Mm-hmm. Right tackle might not be fixed this year. I'm just going to warn Titans fans now. I don't think there's going to need a free agency either. So that'll be very interesting. I don't think it'll be MPF or John Ojukwu this next year, though.
I have to figure something out.
They'll figure it out. Callahan, and going back to Bill, not Brian, I think he did an amazing job this past season with the talent he was given. We saw Latham come in from week 1 and look like a pro. And I understand down the stretch he had some of those rookie mistakes. That's not overly concerning to me. Peter Skoronski down the stretch played like an all-pro. Mm-hmm. Played amazing the last 6 weeks of the season. And we're seeing guys that are getting plugged into the system with the injuries that occurred and still played great. I think somebody put it out that the second half of the season, maybe it was the last quarter of the season, the Titans went for 31st in pass protection down to 11th. Yep. So this is a quarterback issue. Yes, exactly. That's what I was going to lead off to. So this is the quarterback issue that we're suffering, and I anticipate this only getting better as an offensive line. I don't know if they'll get to the Detroit level that we saw in years past where they kept bringing in talent and it got better and better, and now they're the best offensive line in football. I think we can get in the top 5 here in the next 2 years, though, if this coaching staff is retained. And that's probably the biggest thing with Brian is I'm very high on the people he's brought in around him. Yeah. I think as a play caller, he had many issues, and hopefully those will get better as a first-time play caller. But I love Denard Wilson. I love Bill Callahan. Nick Holtz, I could take or leave him. I'll be honest there. But then you can even get it. I'm not sure.
I think he's just a cheerleader. No, I ain't gonna say that. That's disrespectful. I ain't gonna say that. He's just behind the scenes guy.
Yeah, and that's fine.
That's perfectly fine.
I know the media floated out maybe what it would take for him to relinquish play calling that as Brian. And, if he did that, Nick would be the guy calling those plays. And if I recall correctly, he called plays in Jacksonville with Calvin Ridley. Yep. And Ridley did not have a great performance that year, as we all know. So I don't think that's going to improve anything, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But how lucky is Brian to have Bill too at this point? If there's no Bill Callahan, Brian didn't have a job.
Nepotism is alive and well in the NFL.
Yep.
As the QB school would put it. And
I've blocked him. That's so fair. I've blocked him since we hired Callahan. I couldn't take it.
No, I couldn't take it either. And I used to love the guy. I didn't love him, but I love the content he produced for somebody as a fan who's wanting to learn more about quarterback play in the collegiate or the pro level. I loved it. I haven't watched a single video this whole season, though.
I haven't watched a single one.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
He's not high on Shador, though, I know.
That doesn't surprise me.
But there's a lot of guys that aren't, though. That's sort of crazy. You know what I mean? Like Quincy Avery. I think it's not Quincy Avery. Who is that? Who's the quarterback guy that works with Deshaun Watson? He's Deshaun Watson's quarterback coach. really Quincy.
Is it Quincy Wilson? Quincy Avery?
Quincy Avery is not who I'm talking about. 1 second, I got him right here. Yeah, Quincy Avery. Yeah,
Okay.
Quincy
Okay.
Avery.
Got it
Yeah,
right.
really respected quarterback guy. Knows his shit. He's really, really good. Works with Deshaun Watson and a few other quarterbacks in the league. I think he works with Jameis, I want to say. I'm not sure.
Mm.
I know for a fact he worked with Deshaun Watson. It's not really saying much now, obviously. But yeah, he's not really high on Shador either. So
And that seems to be the majority of the draft community. Everybody has Cam Ward over Shador, other than Titans fans, is what I'll say right now. The
yeah.
only other one I've seen that has Shador higher is Mel Kiper, which love him or hate him. I think he's been around forever. He's got his hits like Josh Allen, and he'll talk about it nauseum for the next 2 decades because he hit on one player. But
Hey,
I do agree with the
hitting on a quarterback counts as like 100 hits, though.
It does. It does.
Like, let's be
Especially when
honest.
it's a guy, when people were talking up Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield in that draft, and
Yeah.
who both had great years this season, but Josh came in, started his rookie year, and still was kind of doubted, and then takes off from there. But
For every Brian Thomas hit, hey, there's 100 Brian Thomas hits are equal to a Josh Allen hit, in my opinion.
yep. No,
And that's just how it goes.
and that's fine.
But it's,
I
and I
mean, he
think,
was also very high on Will Levis. I will say that.
man, and Will Levis is like the prototypical Penn State quarterback too. If we look at that, I don't want any part of Aller either. But you know, I don't, and I'm not one to scout the helmet. But it's just they recruit a certain guy. I'll say that.
Yeah.
But real quick with Shador, and like you said, Titans fans are a little bit skewed compared to everybody else. I think it's because he fits us. He fits what we need.
That's it.
Systemically, culturally, it's more than one ways that he fits us, and I think that's why the want is there.
Well, and I think we are just starved as far as national media content driven stuff. And I think when you look at Shador, you know some of that's going to pop up. You're going to be able to read about your team for the casual fan on NFL.com on a regular basis with Shador there. It's going to have that Caleb Williams effect that the Bears saw this past year. So I'm still Team Shador, and I think it's a talent and just a fit. And I'll be fine with either of them. So
yeah, I would be too. I'll say that.
I'll leave it there. But yeah, I think that puts us at a good point. We're 40 minutes into the show. Thank you to everybody in the comments, like Chef Rand, like Stevie, like Ed Henry, Ibby, and Amar. I know he's up there. So we appreciate everybody in the comments. If you guys are checking us out for the first time, make sure you give us a subscribe over on YouTube, Glory Days Sports, and enter in to win that Tajay Spears signed jersey giveaway, giving that away as soon as we hit that 1,000 subscriber mark. Check out the merch as well. Before we hop off here. Oh, it's a great cup. And yeah, Chef Rand actually put out, or no, Ed Henry started it. Who's ready for Hard Knocks? If the team drafts Shador Sanders, they're one of 4 teams, I believe, that are eligible to be on Hard Knocks. Do you think that Amy would entertain that with Brian Callahan and this new grouping that we see out there?
Yeah, she's about $1 for sure. I think it'll be good, and I'd look forward to it. I'm so glad we're gone. We're past the days of the damn. I don't want to call him a Nazi, but you know who of not letting any cameras on the scene, and I understood it, and I get it. You know, it is what it is. I got one more thing to say too. You know who Amy really makes it hard on when she does her thing, firing everybody.
Than the fans?
These are some of the fans, but these are a certain sect of fans that I really just side eye at. Are these fan accounts that like Pretty Boy Kelly and the ones that tie themselves to an actual coach or the GM, for example? Them guys are going through it, boy, because they got to rebrand every damn offseason.
Well, we got one in the chat over here.
That's what I was saying.
Mr. Chef Rand.
You're going to have to rebrand, buddy.
Are we going to be? I don't even know. He's gonna keep the
Backstabbing
name,
Brinker.
I'm going to keep
There you go,
the
Chef
name.
Rand. I got you.
He's a
Backstabbing
real
Brinker.
one.
Come on, Chef Rand.
Chef
Backstabbing
Rand
Brinker.
is loyal to the cause. I'm sure he followed over from Houston, and he stayed with it. So
Yeah,
he's going to
shout
keep
out
it
to
as
Chef
a
Rand.
memento.
I feel for y'all
No.
having to rebrand every freaking 12 months. That's tough, boy.
No, yeah, especially with this franchise. So we'll go ahead and hop off here. We'll be back next Thursday morning live. Maybe we'll have a GM to talk about, and then we start talking about some draft picks coming up. So
Yeah.
we appreciate everybody in the comments. We love you guys. We'll talk to you next week. Love you, mean it. Peace.